Okay, our LS swap Camaro. We had mounts on here that we originally showed you that were a hooker mount, Holley hooker, same company, that we put on there for the motor mounts. And then we got the hooker cross member that we put in the back for the transmission. When we set in the car just to line things up, see how it was going to fit, it wouldn't have fit very good without modifying something, because it turns out the transmission mount, both made by the same company, but really didn't match each other. They showed a different part number actually that they wanted with this Woozy transmission mount, which is right there, which is a nice piece. It's for the 4L80E, and we didn't want to have a bunch of problems because we ran into this before. So we decided to get the other mounts that they were recommending. We thought the ones we had would work, but they set the motor pretty close to the firewall. And I think these mounts actually move it ahead a little bit. And there's not much room at the steering box where the headers go. And we've had to modify headers before because things weren't matching. So we got the hooker headers that are supposed to match these mounts and tranny mounts and so on. So now we picked up these mounts, and you can see we got one plate bolted in. And here's the mounts that will bolt onto the motor. They're a little different style. We'll show them to you as we're putting them in. But they use a big wide mount, more like the factory ones that were used in, I'm going to say 74s and up, 73s and up, maybe 72s and up, big wide mount. And I wasn't really a fan of that big wide mount, so that's why I didn't really want to put them in. We do have a matching transmission mount too to make sure everything lines up. But it's these big wide mounts represent more of a factory mount. Then you have to buy the rubber separately that goes on the back side of that mount, that the motor mount bolt will actually go through. So this goes on there like that. Then your steel mount goes on there like that. Then all this will end up bolting down to this mount down here. And like I said, these mounts will end up bolting to the block. We'll show you all this. And then you got to set it in place that way. So there's nothing wrong with these. They're a big wide mount. I've never really been a fan of them. I always liked the smaller mount that the 68 Camaros and stuff had. But these are the mounts that are supposed to make everything line up, and we didn't want to run into a bunch of problems where it wasn't lining up and we had to mod headers and that kind of thing. So we'll show you that as we put them on and get them in. Another thing, if you're buying a newer crate engine, or you might get an engine that doesn't have the rear steam holes open, because what they do is the factory, after a certain year, from what I understand, they started plugging these rear steam holes, and they use like a rivet. So we slowly drilled the rivet out with a little bit of grease on our bit, just so it didn't get filings in it. Then we screwed this through and pulled the plugs out. We want to run these just because we want to make sure we don't have any hot spots in the LS. So these two lines, we'll show you how we hook them up, and they go to the front two lines for the steam holes. And if you do end up with hot spots, you can have detonating problems and stuff like that. So we decided to take them out. I think the factory, I found a couple articles why they did this, and for one, the manifolds they went with didn't have room underneath for their steam lines. And for another, I think, however, they had the motors set in, the Escalades or the vehicles that these ones come out of. Level-wise, I think they were happy enough that the back was lower than the fill and the front was the highest part. So then they just left the steams in the front. But when we're into a performance application and stuff, we're not really going to take any chances. We're just going to put all the steam lines in, and then that way we don't have to worry so much about angle. I mean, we'll still do drive shaft angle and that, but a little less chance of having a hot spot in the motor and having a cylinder detonate or whatever issues it may cause. So we're electing to do that so we don't trap any air in there. So we'll show you the little system we're using. It's a hardline kit. It's a little bit more price friendly than some of the other kits. And we got lots of room under the intake to run kind of like the Crabtree lines. So we'll show you that as we do it too. But we should be able to get these mounts on and get the motor put back in place and start sending units in it and hooking some stuff up. So I'll show you guys that stuff today as the awesome old nostalgic Camaro starts to get its LS transplant. So yeah, stay with us and we'll be back. Thanks for watching. Okay, so Chris has got these mounted on the block now, so them mounts we think are right. We had to do these plates kind of twice because this notch here is supposed to be up by the header to allow us for some clearance for the header. And then these bolts have different spacing from there to there. So these mounts go on next, and you can see that they've got one corner notched, and you'd think it would go there, but it can't because the bolt holes don't line up on either one. So we got to mount them like this and then grind that notch ourselves, which they tell you in the instructions to grind a notch, but they give you one corner that's already ground, but it's on the wrong end. So that's just something we ran into, which is kind of weird. We don't understand it, why they did it like that. And these plates are impossible to actually mount backwards because they're countersunk, and if you mount them backwards, that notch ends up down in the bottom corner, which we already did. So that doesn't work. So you guys might run into this if you buy one of these hooker mount kits. Yeah, so now we're just gonna have to grind our own notch and make them fit. So we'll be back. Okay, we're back with the 68 Camaro this morning. We're just getting the tranny mount all in there. We've had the headers in and out of it, so they are working and fitting and not hitting anything. They're not hitting the mounts or anything here, so everything's working good that way. The instructions weren't great with these, so there was a little playing around getting some of them mounts right. You can put these rubbers in upside down. So of course we had one over there right. This side was upside down, according to these little tangs that are right here. Yeah, so there's a little bit to learn with that there. This is all, we had to ground off the mount right here. This plate was kind of already done, but the headers didn't hit that. We have had in the past, that little jet out there holds the converter pan on there to the transmission. We've had to buck these off before where they've hit the header. This time we did not have to. So we were using these hooker headers on this one, and we used their matching mounts and everything to make it work. I'm not a real big fan of this real big wide mount and stuff, but it all ended up working out fine. So far it's good. I like the firewall clearance that we got here. The other mounts had me right up against the firewall. I didn't like it that close. Just if you got to remove covers or anything, it's kind of a pain. And there's no need to have it that close, especially with this car. It'll have the electric fans and everything, so it's got lots of room up front, so if you get ahead a little bit, not a bad idea. But the headers and everything fit good in it, so we'll show you more of that later today. As this mount gets all done, we've had to drill holes and everything in the frame to make the mount work, but it is all coming out very good. You can see the mount under there. It's actually quite a nice mount. It's a good looking mount. Kicks back, so it mounts up here and then kicks back. We've got the right transmission mount on there, the rubber mount. So it's actually all lining up and looking really good. So we'll be able to get the shifter kind of lined up today. At some point in time, he can get a drive shaft made, but yeah, so it's coming along good. So we'll keep showing you that as we progress with more parts. We ended up removing that front lower valence sitting over there. Our hoist was kind of, it's almost like it wasn't long enough on the arm to get right back where we wanted. It was right up against it, so we just removed it. There was only a few bolts holding it in. So now we'll get all the sensors in, cam position sensor, crank sensor, stuff like that. And we'll just keep bolting away till we've got it all pieced together, but it's actually coming out pretty good so far. We'll show you as we're hooking up the Holley fuel management system, and we'll show you as we're putting in the vintage air system too. So it's actually coming along real good. Intake looks real nice on there. It's got lots of clearance at the back. Got clearance to put in any vac lines or PVC lines. Yeah, so far good. We've got lots of clearance on the oil pan, which is good. We've had some of these where we've had to do notching and stuff like that. This one actually fits good. So some of these part numbers we'll be writing down for the next Camaro or Firebird swap, just so it saves us some time. It seems like we've done a few of these now, and we've used different parts on all of them and did a little bit of learning on all of them along the way. But yeah, we'll keep you guys up to date on this one as we go through it. We'll be back today on it, and you guys can see some more of what we got going on. Okay, we'll be back. Thanks. I had to do one more quick film of this thing. This thing painted back in, I don't know, it had to be the 90s or something. It's got some bubbles and stuff coming through for it, but man, this thing still looks old school cool. I just thought I'd throw that in there because I was walking up to it from a different angle. So I really can't wait to see this car all done. It's gonna be a very cool ride, and nice to be involved in it. So we'll show you guys some more of this one in a bit, like I said, but I just wanted to show you that angle on the paint job. Okay, we'll be back.